whatever, and that didn't fix you, you should leave now, because nothing we can do after that will. Holy cow, that was awesome. What were you talking about in French, though? That was awesome, though. Well, I was sitting next to a 16-year-old, and I felt weird, because we were like singing along, and we didn't know what we were singing, so Lily Mae had just told me she loved me or something, and I don't know, we were just singing along. All right, let me grab another chair here. We have a very special treat. If anybody needs seats, we have seats in the front. We can pull more out the back. Jared, Jeff, you guys, there's some seats up here. Doak, if you want to come up, I'll give you your seat. You can bring up. You might be shopping right now, though. This isn't a big store. All right, as most of you, or some of you may not know, this whole Two Old Hippies event came about from a conversation that Doak and I were having. We kind of met each other random about a little over a year ago, right around CMA Music Fest, and then we started talking, and we had a lot of similar ideas and passions as far as helping educate artists. As you see, there's a lot of artists in this town, and there's a lot of people here that aren't just country. There's a lot of people here that are songwriters. There's a lot of people here doing a lot of different things. And what we found was there's a lot of wrong roads that you can go down by just not knowing. So we wanted to do what we could. The folks at Two Old Hippies were gracious enough to give us this location to be able to come teach and share and let you guys interact and ask questions and network with each other and start songwriting things together. And I mean, people have been recording over at Jeff's studio and getting pictures and websites done by a lot of the folks they've met here. In a little bit, we're going to bring up Wade. Wade's got a merchandise company. A lot of you are out on the road. They need t-shirts, koozies, keychains, and things like that. But a lot of you don't have a lot of money to spend. So we try to bring people, and we go out and we find folks that we call our trusted resources to share with you. Well, every so often, Doak runs into a very special guest. We have a gentleman who's going to come up and Doak's going to interview. His name's Michael Ray. He's been doing a lot of what you guys have been doing for a long time and playing shows and trying to get noticed. And he has a very interesting story on how he got to his journey, and now that he's in that journey, I'm hoping that they'll share some of the things that he's going through right now, because he's gotten to where a lot of you want to get. And once you get there, I always tell people, the hard part in Nashville is not getting a record deal, it's keeping it. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now in his world, and I'm very excited to hear from him. So I'll turn things over to Doak, and he'll bring up Michael.
Thank you very much, Rick. Appreciate it. A couple of months ago, I got a call from a friend that said, hey, can you help book for a high school graduation party up here? This guy's a former NFL football player and announcer. And I said, sure. He said, what we call Tony Conway. Tony's a booking agent and a friend. Buys laminates and passes from him. I sell poor laminates and passes. And one thing led to another, and went to Cincinnati and watched this guy connect instantly with about 300 high school kids that just graduated. I said, man, this guy has it just like Tony said he does. And I wanted to learn more about the story, and that's what we're going to talk about. Michael Ray, come on up here, man. Appreciate you coming out to me. Thanks for being here, man. It means
Thanks
a
for
lot.
having me. I'm not used to that cool speech thing.
Well, you wrote it.
I did. I paid for it. That's good.
Got it in my ear here. But, anyway, let's just go back to the beginning just for a second. Tell me about what was the first song, the first music you heard as a kid and said, man, I got to do that.
Well, I'm from Florida originally, just south of Ocala, like 30 minutes outside of Orlando. And my family had a band before I was born, so I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. And so my dad sang lead, my grandpa played lead, my uncle played bass, my cousin played drums. And so they toured across Florida in a country band. And so they had me on stage one time. I was like able to stand, and my dad always had a joke. He said, man, as soon as you could stand, we'll put you on stage. every newspaper clipping was my knees down because I was only that tall, you know, and I was playing the heck out of a Kermit the Frog guitar. That was awesome. And so he always joked about that. But I grew up on very older country music. I grew up on, for my generation, I grew up on John Conley, Earl Thomas Conley, Porter Wagoner, Bobby Bear, Ray Price. That's what I grew up listening to. And the first song I ever heard that made me go, wow, man, was Mama Tried from Earl Haggard. And it's the first song I learned on guitar. And I was playing every weekend with my grandpa and his band and stuff like that. So, but it was really cool because I think something that gets lost a lot now is the history of what we do. And if you're going to be a president, you're going to be whatever you want to do, you want to know the history of what came before you and what that president did or something like that. And so growing up like that and listening to that stuff gave me such a respect. And now I'm a country history buff, man. I just love it. And I pull from a lot of those writers back then when I write because they were great storytellers. And you listen to a Haggard song and you're there. You know, you listen to Mama Tried and you're in prison with him. You know, and you feel that connection that he had. Willie Nelson was great. And Willie Nelson was great at it. And it was just, yeah. I told you not to go to Tenerife before you came here.
That's true.
But to answer your question, I think it was Mama Tried. My grandfather and my dad had me set up in the living room. That was probably one.
Then what happened for your career? You're used to being on stage. Let's talk about what you were learning back then and when it was time for you to do your own thing.
Yeah, I played, like I said, I went and was playing with my grandfather's band for years, and when I turned 16, I didn't hang out at like high school parties, you know, like that all this. I was playing with my grandpa every weekend, and so first place I ever drove was to a place called the Eustis. That's my town. I'm from Eustis. Eustis Sunshine Opera, and it's a replica of the Grand Ole Opry here. They had an open mic night, and it was my first time ever being on stage without anybody in my family with me. And I went on there and I did two songs. I did The Chair by George Strait, and I did Lady Down on Love from Alabama. And the lady, she passed away recently, or a few years ago, but the lady that owned it, I get through and she comes running out, and she was like very fireball lady. You know, she said, I need to talk to you, and I'm like, oh crap, I did something wrong. You know what I'm saying? This is not good. I started getting tattoos when I was 16. I was like, I didn't take nothing, I swear. And she said, I'd like to have you back to do shows once a month on Saturdays. And if you could be here every Friday, that'd be great. And I ended up becoming real good friends with them. And through that, I actually did stuff with Porter Wagoner and Ray Price when they came there, Bobby Bear and stuff. So that was my first time ever being on stage without my family, without that comfort, without that blanket of knowing, oh, my grandpa's right there, you know, whatever. And it was people that I felt like didn't have to tell me I was good. You know, when you sing for your grandmother, she's going to tell you you're good. I don't care how bad you are. Oh, that's great, sweetheart. You're wonderful. So I was in front of people that didn't know me. I had to prove myself to them. And I was on stage with a band that was way better than I was. Just unbelievable players. And I just grew from that. And then, you know, from then on, I just started. I got started there and started playing hard as much as I could.
So you're playing bars. How did you go about picking your band? By the way, this guy has a great band, and they moved up here from Florida with you.
They did, yeah. I got lucky. It was a funny story. I was a guy named Jeff Hurst, who's a songwriter from Florida. My mom was telling me about this guy. There's this guy, Jeff Hurst. He's a great songwriter. When you come from a town that isn't of a lot of musicians, you go, "What's the song?" Okay, you know, like, okay, Mom, that's great. What I didn't know was he had a friend telling him, hey, there's this kid singing songs and you should write with him. And he's going, nobody sings in this town. That's great, whatever. Well, then I was playing the Lake County Fair where I'm from, and he happened to walk past, I guess, with his wife. And he tells his friend, dude, there's this guy. I really like to write with him. And he goes, yeah, that's the guy I've been telling you about for months. So I met up with Jeff. We rode for 2 weeks, rented a car the size of that monitor, and started driving up to Nashville because he was just wanting to do a songwriter thing, and I was wanting to learn how to write songs better and know the demo process and all that stuff. And so we started coming up, and the only guy that we could get to even talk to us was, because we didn't know nobody up here. David Preston at BMI took a meeting with us, and he was the first guy that really believed in what me and Jeff were doing. And at the time I was playing a lot in Florida, and he said, he asked me, Michael, he said, well, man, I feel like you have a lot of potential. He said, what's your goal, what's your plan? I said, well, I got this mapped out. I think I can save up enough money. I was living with my parents, and I could save enough money where I could move up here. I already had a guy that was going to let me live with him, and I could go for about 7 months and just focus on music. And David said, don't move. He said, what's going to end up happening is showcases aren't going to be the thing no more. It's getting to where it's a single. You're going to have to prove yourself. You have to bring something to the table with these labels. The days of them coming to see you are going to be over pretty soon because it's just the way it's going. And we had nobody to bounce off of, so I was like, all right. So me and Jeff on the way home calling guys and going, hey man, I need to set up a band, I guess. And I had a band by the time we got back. I started practicing with them. And of course now, back to what I was saying, I don't come from a town with a lot of musicians. So I had a lot of the guys that were still living in the 70s rock and roll days. So I had to deal with that for a little bit. But so I started a band from there, and then I already knew in my head kind of what I wanted as a band. I was like, man, I really want a rock drummer. I want something that's going to, because you got to stand out. That's the main thing what we do. You have to have something that stands out. So I love to have a rock drummer that probably didn't even listen to country music. That's what I like. Went through a lot of people, a lot of great guys, and then I finally found my drummer, Andrew, who came through for him. My keyboard player, actually, his pastor bumps up to my dad's. And Eustace, so I've known him since high school, and we've been together since, as friends, we're not together yet. We've been friends since high school, we've been playing together since high school. And then my bass player, I found through them, and he's the same way. And the guitar player now lives up here, but they all moved and been with me and been very faithful to me on, shows that maybe not paid the greatest and stuff like that, just trying to get our foot in the door. So you're going to go through a lot of great musicians that maybe you don't click with. You're going to go through a lot of bad musicians. But I think, and what I've learned is, talent is great and you need somebody that's going to be great. But if you can get somebody that's great or good but believes in you, that's way better than any great musician you're going to find. Because if they don't believe in you and they start doing it for the paycheck, that's when you're going to have a problem with that. But so like I said, I got lucky. I had to go through a lot of guys, but I got a group of guys that believe in me as much or more than I believe in me sometimes, But we, man, I just think that finding that right core of people that will ride in a van with you for 19 hours or 2 weeks at a time, whatever it is real important.
So you were playing a lot of shows in Florida. How were you booking the band in Florida?
I was calling in everywhere I could and playing for nothing if I could or whatever I could to get in. I'd play anything I went to. I'd go to them. How I started with that was I was playing acoustically around Florida and around Central Florida. And I'll never forget, the first bar gig I ever got booked, I got booked on by the guy who was teaching guitar lessons at a little music store. And he books me, and I've never played a 4-hour show in my life. And so I walk out, and the guy goes, hey man, what are you doing Thursday? And I said, nothing. He said, well, you're playing Shades. And I'm like, first off, I legally can't even get into Shades. And second, I don't have, I said, with who? He said, by yourself. So we rig up a PA system, and for 3 days I went and snuck into these bars, and I saw, like, there'd be guys doing just rock music. And there'd be like 5 people in the room. And I'd go to another place, it'd just be country music, there'd be like 5 people. So I said, how can I gotta do something different. I gotta do something that's gonna stand out. So I learned everything from Lil Wayne to Bob Seger to Willie Nelson to Nickelback. I learned everything I could. What happened was, people would come in and try to stump me, and then I had an uncle that likes to drink, right? And so what I did was we set up this tip game. So I would go in, and it's worked because I thought, hey, if I can do at least one song every 30 minutes that somebody likes, I'll get these 5 people from everywhere, and they're all coming. And it worked. And also, when you have an uncle that doesn't mind drinking, and we took dollar bills, and I said, hey, he said, I'm going to throw 10 in, and we'll go from there. So we crumbled up $10 bills and played basketball in the tip jar. Well, by midnight, people are wasted, and it turns into a game, right? So all night long, I had these drunk guys throwing money at me, just trying to get in the bucket, and I'd walk out with $200 extra because some drunk dude's going, I bet you I could beat you at that. his drunk friends believe in him, and it just worked. But I would call anywhere I could, and because you don't know when that it is true, and later on in this interview I'm sure we'll talk about it, but you don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what's going to come from that. It might just be a bar show, but there's a guy that might be standing there that might be friend. You just never know who could be in town. No, and it's probably going to be where you least think somebody's going to show up. And that's why I try to tell my guys and lead them in a way of knowing, hey, if there's 20 people out there, Garth did it best. I'm obsessed with Garth Brooks and the way he did his businesses, because there could be 20 people, 20,000. There's 20 people got the same show, there's 20,000 people did. You're not going to sell out every show. You're going to play places that you sold out that you're not going to sell out. You know, for whatever other reason, maybe there's concerts in town or whatever. Play to those people like it's packed. And love what you do. Do it for that moment, because you don't know. It might be 5 people, but all you need is one to change your life. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure we'll talk about it, and that's what happened to me.
Well, let's move on to your plan to show, and you're opening for Jeff Bates. What did that lead to?
That lead to my life changing. I was to step back just a little bit. I did a show with Jeff. Actually, funny. I did a show when I was in high school with him, open for acoustic. And later on, Jeff Hurst, who we drove to town with all the time. Who I drove to town with all the time. Got a publishing deal and was writing with Jeff Bates, and they wrote a few times. Excuse me. And he said, "Man, Jeff, I got this artist I'm friends with. You mind if I bring him in?" And he said, "Oh, sure, bring him in." So I went in. And Jeff comes in. He sits down and he goes, "Sing me something." Oh, crap. No, I have no idea what to sing this guy. I haven't wrote anything I thought was cool enough to sing something to impress him. And he goes, "Man, I've been looking for you." And he says, "I'm so-and-so age, I don't know if he wants me to say it." And he said, "You know, I got a little girl now. I got a wife, and I kind of want to branch on the other end of things, management and whatever, just on the business side, maybe produce. And you're the guy I've been looking for. I'm looking for somebody just like you." He said, "Do you mind if I take you to the guy that's been booking me for years and is managing me now? Meet with him." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I met with Tony Conway, who's here, and we hit it off, and I signed a management booking deal with them, and just started hitting the road even harder, because now I was trying to book. We were still at that moment in time. We were just trying to play everywhere we could. I'd call the office, "Hey, I think I got this," and we were just doing whatever we could to play wherever we could, just for that fan base, to build that fan base up. We were on a 4-day run from Georgia through South Carolina, and I was pulling the van. We were pulling the van in the motorhome in Myrtle Beach, that made no sense, in the hotel. We were pulling the van in the hotel, and Jeff tells me, he says, "Hey man, did Tony call you?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, he's gonna call you and listen to what he has to say." I said, "Okay." Tony calls him. He goes, "Man, I've never heard of this, but they just called and they really want you on this TV show called The Next." It was on CW Network. And my first reaction, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, "Man, I've been busting my tail through all this. I've been building this fan base up from nothing." And I always kind of, in my mind, had this thing in my head that I always would, if Waylon Jennings could see my career, I'd want him to approve of the way I did it, type of thing, or whatever. And I just really wanted to make sure people knew that, hey, when I got established, I could go talk to these other artists, and they would respect the way I can. I didn't want to think it was handed to me, type thing. And Tony said, "Well, man, here's the deal. The show, they go to these different states, and they're finding 4 people that's been established in these states, and they're here. They're missing this much, and they need to get here. They want to fill that gap in these states." And John Rich is one of the mentors, Joe Jonas, Nelly, and Gloria Estefan. So what we didn't know was it was like they found me last minute. Somehow they found me last minute. And they're like, "Well, we need him now." And Tony's like, "Well, he's in South Carolina. This ain't going to happen right now." So we get back. We spend 6 hours on the phone with a dude from L.A. on Monday, and we agree to do the show. And the gist of the show was John Rich goes to Orlando, stays with my family for 3 days. I show him around my town, all the stuff we do, take him to local restaurants. And then the competition was at the House of Blues in Orlando with the 4 of us, which was fan voted at the place. And they picked one from each city, all 6 cities, I think is what it was. And 6 of us go to LA for 3 weeks, battle there, and whoever wins a record deal. And so I ended up winning Florida, won that show, and then went to LA. And what they did was really cool. They did a thing where instead of going home, you got locked in. So when you went to the first round in LA, you got whoever got picked to win from the fans in America to watch. You got locked in the finals. So nobody went home. Everybody had the same amount of TV time, which is one of the biggest things you could ever get. You can't get enough. And that's what Tony said to me. I mean, either way, win or lose, you can't beat free TV. I mean, you're on national TV, millions of people see you. And so I ended up getting locked in the first show, and I went to the finales. And I was the only country singer, and the only country singer in the whole place out of LA. Me and John Rich, which me, him, and Nelly hit it off just fine. And and I ended up winning the show from that and won a record deal out of the show.
Let's talk about your social media. Okay, here's your chance. What have you been doing? Connecting with your fans.
What's crazy is seeing how important. I'm 25, and I grew up in a house where my dad didn't have a computer. I didn't grow up around and all that stuff. So when I had Twitter, I was like, nobody cares what I'm doing every second. I was doing I am sitting, nothing's happening again. I don't know what people want to know. And but once you get into it, once you dive in, it's so important. You got that one-on-one connection that they didn't have 5 years ago. Fans can literally get a hold of Taylor Swift. That connection is so important because those fans will be with you now. They'll be with you when the ride's over with. Because what goes up will come down, and that's the main thing to keep in mind when you're doing this. Is you build that fan base solid. Those people have an invested interest in you. Feel like they're putting money into your business, and they're not asking anything in return. Just acknowledge them once in a while. And my Twitter is connected to my phone that alerts me every time somebody writes me, which is a lot. Which is cool because when you write back, they keep responding. So I'll be like at 4 in the morning, bling, I'll just write something back or whatever it is. And you do that stuff that goes extra mile that a lot of people don't do. They remember that. And it's little stuff. It's a little retweet for somebody's birthday. It takes you 2 seconds. That person, they loves it, and they're going to go tell all their friends that you retweeted them, and that's all they care about. And that one-on-one connection, you can't buy that. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've learned so much, and just be yourself. You don't got to try to fake nothing, because they're going to know, trust me. They're going to know, just be yourself. Say, I mean, obviously, if you have a weird sense of humor, you probably should calm that down, but don't be yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
So now you got your record deal, you've got a writing deal. Now you're writing with hit writers. How are you preparing for that? How's that going? It's part of your career. Were you prepared for it? What are you doing?
Well, yeah, you are and you're not at the same time, because I'll never forget when I sat in the office at Scott Hendrick's office with Tony, and it's one of those things where it hits you like, this is happening. This is the real deal. I mean, this isn't. You really did it. Like, oh crap! We trained for this, but it's actually here now. And what you instinctively do without knowing it is you push yourself to that level. Once that happens, you go, wait a minute, this guy believes in me. I got a team of people that believe in me. Maybe I can do. Okay, I can do this. And you instinctively start pushing yourself to be better and to do better, and you take it more serious. And with writing, because I've learned, be prepared for something. You got to bring something. Because I was writing 5 days a week and busting tail, writing with great writers. You're not going to think of stuff every night of the week, and so you don't have to write 5 days a week. I learned that. I learned mine's 3. My 3 days a week is good. That's what we can do. But they make you feel so welcome. Every writer I've wrote with, Casey Bether, Monty Criswell, Ben Haislip, Ray, all these guys, they make you feel welcome. You forget the hits they wrote because they don't talk about it. They're there for you. They're there for you. They're there just to write a song, and they make you feel so comfortable with being in the room. And what I've learned too is throughout these writes later on, you start listening to ideas different, and like you'll be writing and you'll say, well, what would so and so say in this? And then you start picking, and then also you start knowing what songs to bring in to certain people. Because I was first 3 months ago, I didn't know what to bring in these guys. I was like, holy cow, I'm writing with so and so. But then you start learning, okay, this guy, if I want to write a ballad, I know I can go to this. I know if I want lyrics, I can go to this guy. If I want to sing a party song, or I want to write a party song for whoever, I can go to this guy. And you just start kind of evening it out to the people that you know that will make the most of your time and that will value, you know, what you brought up. So it is what you expect, but then again, it isn't, because it's your dream come true. I mean, it's that moment. It's your Super Bowl. It's your thing. But that's when the work starts. It doesn't stop. Then that's when it starts, because, like he said, getting it's hard. Keeping it's even harder, because now you look at other people going, oh wow, that guy's really good, and he's not signed. You know, so I got to make sure that I keep up and keep my chops up. You got to don't go out partying 5 days a week, and don't do. You got to be on your game, because if not, somebody is moving to this town right in a second that will be on theirs, and it takes 2 seconds for you to be off, for somebody to slip in and say that's wrong.
And now that you're here, let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about an offer or something you had before. You know, the bad side of the business.
Yeah.
You have a story there.
Yeah, I had a guy that was going to invest stuff, and he's a good dude, but they put me with people that weren't, you know, and end up, some dude doesn't pay what he says he's going to pay, and the next thing you know, I'm getting hit with these bills and money. I'm broke, not nothing. People are going to feed you a golden spoon because they think they can make money off of you. And if somebody's there to make money off of you, don't talk to them, because you're not going to make money off you. If you're in this for money, get out of it. You know, because it's not going to happen for a while. And that's what happened. It was just bad. I mean, you got a guy that now bring up all these bills, and it's crazy, and it was just it was just an experience that was good. I learned from it, but you also got it made me take things more serious, because you can't trust everybody. And that's what I did. I trusted a guy and put everything in and kind of sat back, because he was throwing money and doing all this stuff. And I just kind of sat back and go, oh man, this is crazy. I don't know what to do. And I'm just listening to him. Trust your gut instinct. You're the artist. You're the musician. You're the songwriter. You're the singer. Trust what's in you. Read those music business books. Study all ends of what you're doing. Don't be blind. This is your business. Don't be blind to trusting everybody, because this is what's going to make you your money. It's what's, you dreamed of this. Don't put it in somebody else's hands that could screw it up, because that's what I did. I trusted somebody, and luckily I got out of it. But I will say this is funny. I was sleeping in my band's apartment, because I pretty much just left the whole thing. I was like, man, y'all, I'm done with this. I don't want this. I don't want to be around y'all. I'm done. Sleeping in my band's apartment, I got nothing. I'm sleeping on the floor. I'm driving a little green Escape. We drive to Rockwood, Tennessee to pick up a trailer that was way too big for my Escape to pull. 7 of us piled in it. Blew out tires every time. This thing was, it was just one of those things. But we had the shows to play, and we were going, and that's what we were focused on. So 7 grown men would pile in this tiny Escape and go to these shows. And I'll never forget this one time. I was leaving Rockwood, Tennessee, or we get there. Picked up was my uncle's trailer. My Escape, they left out the fuse for the lights for the trailer. Well, Rockwood isn't the biggest city in town, so the only place that has these is Knoxville. So, and the one Ford company's closed by now. So we have to stay the night in Rockwood, Tennessee. We got a gig in Gainesville, Florida tomorrow night. So we wake up, me and my cousin wake up, we go to the Ford company. They don't have it. The only one they have is for the lights. No brakes, no turn signals, nothing. I'm like, all right, well, we'll get it. Put it on, we go. 15 minutes down the road, I promise you, I hit a ninja start. I've never seen a piece of metal that looked like this in my life. Back tire blows out on my Escape. I'm like, man. So my piano player looks up a tire place. We're driving around trying to find it. I called, they got back. I'm like, hey man, we're driving around, I can't find a tire place. Well, where are you? I'm like, I'm here. Yeah, we crossed from the Walmart. I said, okay. And he goes, well, where are you at? I said, Rockwood. Oh, son, we're like 2.5 hours from Rockwood. I said, dude, that's not what I wanted to hear right now. So we finally find a place. Of course, the tire's stupid expensive. Put it on, drive, change at a gas station before getting to, we're an hour and a half late to the show, change at a gas station. while we're driving, my dad calls me. Now, my dad, maybe I'm not meant for this. I got nothing. I have nothing to prove. Everything's going bad. Everything's negative. Everything I do, I just waste. I spent more money on tires than we would make it for this show. What? And he's like, man, just keep up. You gotta stay focused. You gotta, don't let this stuff beat you down. A month and a half later is when I got the call for the TV show. So, the thing is when things, Joel Osteen tweets this, because I retweeted. If you think God's doing nothing, that's when he's doing the most. And when there's nothing going on, a lot more is going on than what you think. And it's just one of those things. I think you got to live that. You got to live. It's so important to live those days, because then you appreciate when it starts working. When you're driving that car and you've got 7 guys, you do not ever want to be in a small car with 7 men, ever. I don't care how close you are. But it's those times. It's those things you look back and laugh on that. You look back and tell those stories, and everybody has them, and they're fun. Like, I love the fact that I'm in a van, traveling with 4 of my best friends, seeing everything we see, the stupid stuff, the dumb stuff. It's fun. And whenever we get a bus and all stuff, that's great. But what I've learned, for anybody that's going to hire a band, once you get a bus, you ain't going back to a van with those same musicians. So stay in a van as long as you can and get the money you need, and then get a bus. But
thanks, Mike.